Aneke television. Heu agiribom dị egwu nkwa azụghị n'anya mgbochi okwukwu kakwa ogwugwu mma. Heu mba ụwa bịa na ihe ebube eme mgbagbu ụwa gbatawa na ihe ebube emewa. Aneke telivishọn na-emerụ ogbenye emere amadi ihe. Ị na-agba nkwụ, ị na-eme nkupụta nwa, ị na-akwa ozu, ị na-agba akwụkwọ. Bịawa na Aneke telivishọn, bịa ka ezuoru gị ozi ọma. Bịawa na Aneke telivishọn yidume. Heu na-emere ogbenye emere amadi ihe. Ụmụ Igbo bịawo na nke a bụ nke anyị. Ị mara ebe oge ọrụ etiwo mmọnwụ ntakịrị tụkwamọnwụ si nne. Ya mere ha ji wee weta Aneke telivishọn. Ọ bụ onye gbagburu agụ nna, ọ dị na soshal midia, ọ dị na mgbagbu, ọ dị n'Enugu steeti, ọ dị na
Welcome to Sports Rap on Aneke TV. This morning, it is your one and only Sports Oracle Guru Chukuma, and I'm not doing this alone today. I'm doing this with one of the best in the world of sports. Not just the sports of activities that involve football or involve tennis or the other sports. This personnel does, and he is very good at what he's always doing. And I'm not talking about any other person than Mr. West. Good morning, Mr. West. Welcome to Sports Rap this morning.
Good morning, Sports Oracle. How you doing?
I'm fine. I like how you're talking like a robot. Good morning, Sports Oracle. How are you doing? I like how you have positioned it. But how are you doing? How are you really doing? I see that you are not looking bad and you are wearing that wonderful, trying to just, be together with what we are doing this morning. How do you see the game of AFCON and other games that have come along over the year and has been coming along, especially in the AFCON? How do you see?
Okay, I think sport is one thing that I love so much, and it has been a binding for nations, not just Africa. Like around the world, sports has been binding. And yes, I'm wearing the jersey of Standard Rennes of France. Yeah. So sports has been amazing, football has been amazing, and AFCON just had another amazing tournament. Even though there was a dramatic end to things, but then that's football. It's a game of emotions, and sometimes emotions can be too much,
Yes.
and then you see people in different character.
Yes, of course, emotional capital.
Too much.
But what we have in the news, especially from the point of AFCON, is that due to the emotions, the ras that happened on that final night between Senegal and Morocco, there have been suspensions going on from CAF. They just released it yesterday night. They are going to find Senegal, they're going to find Morocco, and they're going to, find individuals too who played their part. But one of the things I want us to talk about in that movement is, do you think there was an overly emotional? Do you think it was necessary for the Senegal's coach to walk those guys away, to tell his guys to leave the pitch when, according to him, there was an poor officiating? That should not be a penalty, according to him. So, do you think that would have really, there would have been a point that would have really been happening or something?
Okay, I'm going to be very straight with you, Sports Oracle. In football, at no point we tolerate such. But like I said, it's a game of emotion. People can't just, overreact based on emotion. Before the penalty, there was a goal for Senegal, which the referee ruled foul and disallowed. So that dissatisfaction was there. Then the penalty incident happened. Mind you, if you saw the game, nobody even noticed that incident. The ball continued to be in play, got to the post of Morocco, then sent back to Brahim Diaz. Brahim Diaz ran and made a cross. The cross then eventually went out for goal kick. So at that point, I don't know if somebody signaled him that there was something that happened, though insists for the ref to go to the VAR. behind Joe and started protesting. I saw that game that day. So even the commentators of the game were like, why is he protesting? He overly, like, it's very obvious that this ball is out of play. Nobody touched it. Is he asking for a corner? That was the comment of the commentators to even tell you that even them did not see that incident until Brian Diaz and co, now made so much of it. The ref had to go see, and they now showed us a replay. You see, there is what we call balance, in game. Some referees, if you follow the game very well, there is the time they blow, and they are not supposed to give a yellow card. They give their yellow card. So when that same player does something that deserves a yellow card, which means if he gives it, it's a red card and the player is gone. You see the ref will not give. You are now shouting, but that one is not even a yellow and you gave yellow. This one that is not a yellow. Why didn't you give yellow? He has paid for that previous mistake. So I expected the ref and the officiating team to understand that that previous decision was not a very good decision. They should have balanced it by allowing that game to continue. We are talking about a final that is in the 90 plus minutes, and you are awarding that kind of penalty.
Well, you saw that the penalty, the Aneke, they could not. Brahim Diaz himself. I'm sure that after he protested, what we call nature, or what we call the god of football, had to, play his part or play her part. Of course, because it's Africa, and we're expecting a lot of drama. But what I'm saying is, what I'm asking again is, do you think that drama, where African football is full of drama more than other climes of football we have seen?
Well, I think we only show what the game means to us when we are like that. You would say it's an African thing, that's fine, no problem. African, we can own it, no problem. But for me, it only shows you how much the game means to us. It only shows you that this is our own. This is like our World Cup, and when players come back to represent their nation, it's important for them. Like, they want to give their all. That's what that emotion will show you. And I think another thing with the Brian Diaz penalty is that it became a psychology game when the coach decided to let's go. They were never going to abandon that game.
So the thing is that when you look at this AFCON game, I want to ask you one final question, because I have been looking at it and I've been thinking about it as a game of football, as something that we have been seeing happening in other places. Now, talking about the game itself, do you think there was a poor officiating activities from the referees? Because a lot of complaints have come out. A lot of issues have been. Even Algeria had to lodge a complaint against Nigeria about the way they were treated. While from the whole scenario, you could see what played out. Now, do you think there was a poor officiating throughout the game of AFCON? Do you think there could be a way we could improve? Because Thierry Henry said that the game of AFCON, of course, that the game was good, but the officiating, he blamed the of match officials, that the officiating was poor. Do you think he is,
right? Yeah, I think yes. There was a lot of ups and downs, but then we had more of the downs, especially in big games. When you are poor and you choose to show it on a big stage, it's loud. But when you show it where our eyes not today, nobody will even know that you are poor. But when you have big games like Nigeria, Algeria, these are games that fill the stadium. Tunisia, Senegal, these are games that Cameroon, Morocco, these are games that fill the stadium. So your officiating should be top notch in such games. You can afford to do anything with Tanzania versus Uganda. Nobody really pays attention to these games. So, but when you have a team, two sides that 80% of the team plays in Europe, the attention of the world is there because their club side, everybody that is fanning them outside Africa is looking. I think that's the kind of you saw the game now where the likes of Mbappe, Chumani, what was the other guy's name? This Real Madrid superstars, we are there to watch. So you see that when such things happen, you can't afford to be poor. in officiating. So there were a lot of poor officiating, like that Nigerian Algeria. Yes, we beat Algeria hands down, but there was a decision, a penalty decision that should have been looked at, that wasn't looked at. I think that's the frustration of the Algerians.
Oh,
They feel maybe if that decision was given their way, probably they will get a penalty, get a goal. It would have changed the rules of the game for them. But it didn't happen. And at the end of the day, we ran them down. So that's where they are pinpointing. I saw the Cameroon Morocco game, that ref no try. That ref no try.
well, okay. Moving on from the officiating side of Afcon, we are going to we have it on the record that Afcon 2025, the viewership clocked 5.2 billion, comparing the 2023 Afcon
Afcon,
that
yeah.
had 2.1 billion. And you, from what you just said, don't you think that the world is just focusing on this continental? This is now the most viewed continental game all over the world. It has to beat the
Euro,
Asian
Asia,
Cup,
South America.
Right. So now every focus is on the Afcon, and we are going to see more of this triple. Don't you think that CAF should do something about the officiating and train more? Give them more professional training. And I'm talking about, because we are having a global viewership and people are viewing. Yes?
Okay, I think one of the things, I think the question I want to ask is Tepe, the CAF president. Please, did he have any arrangement with Morocco? Because you mentioned 2023. Yes, it's 2 point something billion. It's not as much as this one. But then nobody complained about officiating. We had one of the best officiating in 2023. We lost the final. We didn't even complain. Nigeria, as a complaining country, we lost the final, but we did not complain. We did not blame the ref. We beat in the group stage, met us in the final. We scored first in their home. Like, Ivory Coast was the host nation, but you can't say that Ivory Coast won any match in 2023 because they are the host nation. When you go back to look at their games, they beat you, and that's that. But Morocco's case was different. It's as if there is an agenda, to like get these people to this place and hand them over this cup. At a point, it became too obvious.
And also looking at the suspensions
They are dishing out.
You will see that one of the issues which I raised while in one of my shows. One of the issues that we had was the ball boys having to distract the goalkeeper.
Exactly.
And Morocco right now are fine. They were fine last night.
Okay.
About that particular
Actions.
because I was seeing it as, okay, why are we having this kind? Why is the world? Why are we watching this? What is happening? Why are the cameras here? What is really going on? And why are these people distracting this goalkeeper? So to what extent? Of course, it was an absolute misconduct from the Moroccan team, and that's why they were fine. All right, well, moving on from AFCON and what the dramas and the whatnot, let's just go straight to Champions League and what happened yesterday night in Champions League. There has been this rumor that Arsenal would not have if Arsenal would eventually miss their time or bottle the league this time. My grandchildren will tell the story because we are seeing the Arsenal of 2008, Arsenal of the invisible. We have seen them pushing in this particular game. Now looking at the scores yesterday, this is from the UEFA X page. You will see that Ajax lost to Olympiacos. I don't know what's really happening to Ajax now, but let's talk about Arsenal, and we're going to talk about Arsenal. We're going to talk about Manchester City with Galatasaray. Then we're going to talk about Madrid. So I think these three are the people we're going to focus on this morning because of time. So talking about Arsenal, I say Arsenal because they used to ask people. Talking about Arsenal. So looking at, they have this run unbeaten games in
Champions League, yeah.
Do you think that Arsenal is going to really have it leave the trophy? Or I know as an Arsenal fan you will say yes, but let's be factual right now and let's predict with the facts that we have, and let's see what is coming. So what do you think about Arsenal's Champions League run and other football participations they've been having?
Okay, I think I would first of all say congratulations to Mikel Arteta and his boys. Since the new format of the Champions League, this is the first time a team is going 8/8 games. No draw, all wins. Regardless of the opponent they face. So congratulations. Group stage is done. We go to the next phase. But I want to remind you something. I'm a die-hard Arsenal lover. I left Real Madrid in 2006 to join Arsenal. And when you talk about trophies and you call Arsenal a failure, it dey pain me, yeah. But then there is no other place for me. I can't support any other club because na me know waiting I see for Arsenal. But then this is it. Last time we had Real Madrid not qualifying automatically. They did the playoff and they eventually got to the semis where we kicked them. I mean the quarterfinal where we kicked them out. The people who eventually carried it, PSG, did not automatically qualify. They even lost to Arsenal in the group stage. They played playoff and they eventually went all the way to the final and won it. And they didn't just win. It was one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest defeat, suffered in a Champions League final. You don't get to a Champions League final and you lose by 5 goals. Inter did. Inter handed Man City their first Champions League cup was handed by Inter too. So they are cup. So but they are not as popular as Arsenal. So what I'm driving at this, as an Arsenal fan, I want Arsenal to go all the way, even get the trophy. We don't have the trophy yet. But when you talk about facts and factual, do we have the team? Yes. Is there possibility? Yes. But then is the question of character always. Who wants it more?
Okay, this question of character we're talking about right now, is it like Arteta or the players or
Arteta and the players.
Are there some internal issues that you really observe that could really make, because looking at Manchester United, their form, how they have been trying to play a good game since the takeover of the interim coach Michael Carrick, and how they have been positioning themselves too, you would see that everyone wants the team to win. Even the fans are looking up the team. Do you think that Arsenal, there are some internal issues that could make them? Of course, when Manchester United won Manchester City and other teams, we were expecting Arsenal to. Of course, Arsenal won that week, but there was a week. I think the last 3 matches Manchester United won, and Arsenal had a draw with Nottingham
Forest. Yeah.
That match was a pole position game that could have taken Arsenal to the next
level. 7 points clear on the table.
But they had to bottle the game. They played 0-0. So do you think how will you see Arsenal fans and the fan base, and what do you think Arsenal will look like if they don't win? Let's say they just win a trophy, but not Champions League or some other league. But what will you think about Arsenal fans and their patience? What will you think if Arsenal did not win anything this season? You have to see it from that side.
If we don't win anything this season, we'll be here next season. If you are a fan.
Oh, if you're a fan.
Yes. You will be here next season. After all, you've not left. When last did you see a trophy in Man U?
Well,
why have you not left? You just won 2 games. You won City and you won Arsenal, and you are happier than PSG that won Champions League and the Club World Cup. But that apart, we are the elephant. At least we've gotten to the place where you see us as an elephant. What you're expecting is a fall.
Well,
but then we are the elephant. Thank you. So look at it here, right? It's funny. It's funny how we are on top, 12 points clear of Man U, 4 clear of Man City and Aston Villa.
3 games will now drop.
3 games that you are going to get from where?
We're talking about.
See, there is this thing about football. Like I told you about character. Right? The same thing that won Man City and Arsenal is the same thing Amorim has been using. What happened differently?
Okay, so what do you mean, sir?
What happened differently? It's the same Man U team. You didn't buy any new player.
Okay,
the same Man U team that could not win Wolves or even manage to sustain itself in the Carabao Cup nor the FA Cup, lost against a team that plays in the non-league. That same team is the team that beat Man City with the stars, beat Arsenal on top of the table. It's the same boys, Kobe Mino, Maguire, all of them. So what happened differently?
Okay, what happened differently? There was not a magic that was performed. It was actually, I can tell you that, reorientation.
No, it's character.
Character.
See football here.
Okay, what does character bring to the Arsenal team?
When you are hungry, when you want, go look, go back, go and check. When a team is a champion, the team has a particular character. When you talk about the Arsenal Invincibles, if you have time, I'm not sure you've actively watched football when we became the Invincible. Go watch, and you will see that there is a particular character. There is a way the players think, behave on the field. You know, you behave like Omo. I'm you know, in size, no kagi, but Omo, the way you are behaving, the bigger person is even looking small. So when you want it, you don't come. Nobody will hand you over anything. When you want it, it's Ibunya Walia, and that's what PSG did. And finally they got their cup. So how do you have 15 Champions League? It's just that somehow they don't do so well in group stage, but once it's knockout time, you see character. Even if there are 2 goals down and they still have 2 more minutes, they believe that in that 2 minutes they can score you 3.
Of course, that is what we're talking about. But Arsenal, I thank God I'm the one who has the final judgment. I'm expecting Arsenal to do their best and to make sure they win this trophy. If not, generator dragging will not be enough. The way generator rope will be cutting, we'll be dragging all of them. And this is where we call it a morning and a good morning to you. And this is where we're going to be wrapping up the sports show this morning. I hope you had a good time. I did it with my Baba. I will call him Baba because he's not just a boss, he's a Baba. And in the world of sports, I told you guys that he's doing other things. Oh, they need, okay, I'm just saying there, but he's doing other things. And thank you very much, sir, for coming around.
No, thank you for having me.
So we are signing off here, and I want to see you same time, same station tomorrow by 8:30. We have kicked off, and make sure you join us. Have a wonderful morning. Bye.
Sports build discipline, teamwork, and strength. From football fields to basketball courts, sports teach focus and resilience. Support sports. They keep youth engaged, healthy, and off dangerous paths. Every champion started with a single game.
Ndibo, this is a call to unity and thanksgiving. A historic day has been set. A day for one people, one voice, and one heart lifted in gratitude. For the first time in our history, Igbo archbishops and bishops, in one spirit, with Ohaneze Ndibo, have set aside the last Saturday of January as the Igbo World Day of Adoration and Thanksgiving. On January 31st, 2026, from 9 a.m. to noon, the Igbo people at home and across the nations will stand as one. One language, one faith, one voice of gratitude. Watch in the Igbo tongue, in a story the world cannot forget. A people who walked through war, loss, and long years of marginalization, yet refused to be broken. This is not just a service, it is remembrance, it is survival, it is thanksgiving for a people who endured with faith. Anglican, Catholic, Methodist, Presbyterian, Pentecostal leaders, together with CAN, Southeast Zone, invite every Igbo heart, young and old, near and far, to join this sacred hour. Prepare your spirit, lift your voice, give thanks to God for the Igbo journey, a journey of courage, faith, and triumph. January 31st, 2026, the Igbo world rises as one.
Security is not just police on patrol. It is safety in homes, schools, markets, and mines. Without it, progress is impossible. Be alert report danger, support community watch. True security is collective responsibility.
In functional democracies and competitive economies, meritocracy is not a slogan, it is a system. A system where competence determines opportunity, performance drives advancement, and leadership is earned, not inherited or imposed. In Nigeria, however, the persistent triumph of mediocrity over merit continues to shape recruitment processes, elective positions, and leadership outcomes across critical sectors of national life. From public service employment to political office, from academia to corporate governance, troubling pattern has emerged. Access often trumps ability, loyalty outweighs competence, and short-term political calculations override long-term national interests. In the public sector, recruitment exercises are officially designed to be competitive, involving written examinations, interviews, and eligibility screening. Yet, multiple surveys and independent audits have constantly shown that informal influence, patronage networks, and bribery remain significant determinants of who gets hired. This reality has produced ministries, departments, and agencies burdened with underqualified personnel, struggling to deliver on complex policy mandates in a rapidly evolving global environment. The consequences are not abstract, they manifest in delayed project execution, weak policy implementation, inefficient service delivery, and ballooning recurrent expenditure with minimal value creation. When institutions are staffed without regard for skill or capacity, governance becomes reactive rather than strategic. The problem is not limited to recruitment alone. Nigeria's elective political system reflects the same crisis of merit. In many cases, candidates emerge not through rigorous debate, policy clarity, or intellectual depth, but through financial muscle, political godfathers, or ethnic calculations. Electoral outcomes frequently reward popularity, patronage of vote buying over competence and vision. The result is a leadership deficit that cuts across local government councils, state assemblies, governorships, and
Good morning and welcome to News Around the Globe on Aneke TV, your trusted window to the major developments across Nigeria and the global community. I'm Deborah Wakaba. I'm glad to have you join us. And now moving over to the headline. World Bank partners with state governors to improve schools and healthcare centers. Anambra governor warns of possible demolition of Onitsha market over alleged boycott. And on the foreign scene, United Nations appeals for urgent humanitarian assistance for millions of DR Congo. And on business, aviation unions, and on business, aviation unions protest concession of Enugu Airport calls for transparency. And now to the details of the news. The World Bank Nigeria's Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning and the Nigerian Governors Forum have launched the Hope Governor program to strengthen basic education and primary healthcare services across all 36 states. The initiative is designed to ensure that federal and state allocations reach schools and healthcare facilities at the local level. The national coordinator, Dr. Asad Hassan, highlighted that the program focuses not only on funding but also on equitable posting and retention of teachers and healthcare workers in underserved areas. The approach seeks to address long-standing gaps in service delivery. Nigeria Governors Forum Director General Dr. Abdulateef Shitu noted that the partnership will use transparent financial data to improve outcomes for students and patients. The Nigerian Senate has suspended debate on the 2026 Electoral Act amendment bill to allow senators more time for
even
detailed
the
review
national
of the proposed changes. The House of Representatives had earlier passed the bill, but the upper chamber chose to step down the report for further scrutiny. The President of the Senate, Mr. Godswill Babio, stressed that careful consideration is necessary to prevent rash decisions that could trigger post-election legal challenges. He said lawmakers are taking a deliberate approach to ensure electoral laws are robust and legally sound. The Senate plans to hold a closed session before resuming. The moves aim to refine the bill ahead of future elections and enhance confidence in the legal framework governing Nigeria's electoral process. Anambra State Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo has reaffirmed that the closure of Onitsha main market will remain in effect. At a press briefing, he described ongoing sit-at-home activities on Mondays as economic sabotage the state will no longer tolerate. Governor Soludo dismissed security concerns as reasons for the boycott, noting that markets operated without incident during the Christmas period. He warned that traders who refuse to resume Monday operations risk losing shop ownership or facing demolition of structures to support development projects. Governor Soludo has given traders a 2-week deadline to comply with the 6-day work week. The government plans a vitrification process to allocate shops to individuals willing to operate fully and support the state's economic competitiveness. Meanwhile, Governor Chukwuma Soludo has summoned all market chairmen, secretaries, zonal and line executives from across Anambra State for a crucial meeting at the International Convention Center in Oka today. Attendance is mandatory for executives of the Anambra State Market Amalgamated Traders Association. The government says the meeting aims to address disruptions caused by repealed market closures and enforcement of illegal sit-at-home orders. Traders are required to complete accreditation and be seated by 11 o'clock this morning to begin discussions. Officials say the engagement seeks to restore economic stability, protect state revenue, and resolve issues while maintaining public order. Authorities emphasize that dialogue remains the preferred route to ensure markets remain open and productive. Governor Mohammed Umaru Bago has expanded the Niger State judicial bench by swearing in for new High Court judges and 3 cadis during a ceremony at the State Liaison Office in Abuja. The event took place as senior judicial officials were in capital for a disciplinary committee meeting. Governor Bago described the appointment as recognition of the appointees' dedication and service to the state legal system. He ordered them to uphold fairness, justice, and the rule of law in their new capacities. The newly appointed High Court judges are Abubakar Adamu, Ahmad Bala Ndajiwo, Gambo Sadatu Abubakar, and Wushishi Suleiman Buhari. The Qadis joining the Sharia Court of Appeal are Aboki Usman Abdul Rahman, Mohammed Yaba, and Mohammed Nasir Ibrahim. The governor pledged continued support for the judiciary's success. Former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is advancing his political strategy by hosting key stakeholders of the African Democratic Congress (ADC) from Kebbi State. Alhaji Atiku expressed appreciation for the delegation and emphasized plans to build a strategy to link the so that discussions focus on strengthening the ADC and positioning it as a credible alternative through improved governance. The engagement reflects efforts to build alliances ahead of the next general election cycle. Talking to social media, Alhaji Atiku said the quality of dialogue with the ADC stakeholders was encouraging and reaffirmed his commitment to political cooperation. The move signals a drive to reposition the party in Nigeria's evolving political landscape. The Progressive Governors Forum has called for transparent and coordinated management of upcoming APC party congresses and the National Convention. The forum chairman and Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma presented a communique following discussions with APC leadership in Abuja. Uzodinma emphasized that transparency, consistency, and accountability must guide every stage of the party's internal processes to build public trust. He highlighted responsible leadership, clear communication, and collective discipline as key to strengthening internal democracy. The governors welcomed the briefing on the APC's re-registration and digital membership updates, noting that improved data insights will support grassroots engagement. They also endorsed the timetable and institutional framework approved by the party's National Executive Committee for the congresses and convention. In Kano State, APC's 2023 deputy governorship candidate Mortala Garo has officially welcomed Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf into the party. Goro described the governor's defection as a significant step toward political stability and inclusive governance. He said Yusuf's decision to join APC demonstrates a focus on the state's progress over partisan differences and is expected to improve cooperation with federal authorities. Garo pledged his loyalty and commitment to support the governor's agenda within the party. The development is seen as a major shift in Kano's political dynamics, potentially strengthening APC's unity and positioning ahead of future elections. Party insiders say the move could enhance collective efforts to address social and economic challenges in the state. The Federal High Capital Territory High Court has scheduled 10 specific dates between February and June 2026 to conclude the trial of former Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele over the controversial Naira redesign. Justice Marianne Aneke ordered strict adherence to the timetable to ensure timely deposition of the case. During Wednesday proceedings, an EFCC witness acknowledged that the redesign was authorized by the previous administration with a condition that printing be done locally. The prosecution alleges that foreign printing contributed to difficulties in currency circulation. The defense maintained Emefiele's position of innocence as further cross-examination on February 3rd. The court aims to complete the trial within the scheduled hearing date. The Lagos state government has launched an investigation into a major warehouse fire in Mile 2 areas of Amowo-Dofin. The facility contained hundreds of drums with hazardous chemicals and oils, leading to intermittent explosion during the blaze. The Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service obtained the fire, preventing spread to adjacent factories, including a beverage plant. Preliminary reports from the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency indicate the fire started near Sapid Container Terminal. Authorities are working to identify the warehouse owners and assess whether proper safety protocols were followed. Officials say while there were no fatalities, environmental and health impacts are under review as part of ongoing investigations. The Nigerian police force has dismantled a cybercrime network accused of diverting over 7.7 billion naira in airtime and data from a major telecommunication company. The National Cybercrime Center traced the breach to compromised internet staff credentials. Operations in Kano, Katsina, and Abuja resulted in the arrest of 6 suspects, including Ahmed Bala and others. Recovered assets believed to be linked to the crime include residential houses, commercial properties, laptops, and mobile phones. Inspector General of Police Kayode Wetogun commended investigators and reaffirmed the force's commitment to securing Nigeria's digital economy. The suspect will face prosecution upon conclusion of investigation. The Enugu State Police Command has rescued 20-year-old woman from a suspected transnational human trafficking ring and arrested a 50-year-old suspect, Ibekwe Nkiru. The victim was reportedly lured from her job with the promise of employment abroad. Police say the suspect took the woman to a community location to perform an oath linked to the trafficking syndicate before planned relocation. Operatives acted on incredible intelligence, rescued the woman, and arrested the suspect at the scene. The victim has debriefed and reunited with her family. The police command stated investigation will continue to identify and apprehend other members of the network still at large. A 42-year-old man, Edwin Eze, has been arraigned before an Enugu magistrate court on charges relating to alleged abuse of a minor. The matter was brought before His Worship Chijoke Udu of the Enugu East Magistrate Court on Monday. Court records indicate the charge was filed under the Enugu State Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law number 2 of 2019. The accused was remanded in the Enugu Correctional Center and the case adjourned to February 12, 2026 for further proceedings. The Enugu state government has reiterated its commitment to combating abuse and protecting children. Officials say offenders will be pursued through the legal process to ensure accountability under the law. News around the globe is coming to you live from Aneke TV. Remember, you can stay connected with us across our social media platforms across Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, all at Aneke TV. And now a quick recap of the major stories making the news. World Bank partners with state governors to improve schools and healthcare centers. Governor Soludo warns of possible demolition of Onitsha market over alleged boycott. And coming up shortly, on the foreign scene, United Nations appeal for urgent humanitarian assistance for millions in DR Congo. And in business, aviation unions protest concession of Enugu Airport. We'll be right back.
Ndibo, this is a call to unity and thanksgiving. A historic day has been set. A day for one people, one voice, and one heart lifted in gratitude. For the first time, in one spirit, with Ohanes and Ndibo, have set aside the last Saturday of January as the Igbo World Day of Adoration and Thanksgiving. On January 31st, 2026, from 9 a.m. to noon, the Igbo people at home and across the nations will stand as one. One language, one faith, one voice of gratitude. In churches everywhere, worship will rise in the Igbo tongue, echoing a story the world cannot forget. A people who walked through war, loss, long years of marginalization, yet refused to be broken. This is not just a service, it is remembrance, it is survival, it is thanksgiving for a people who endured and endured with faith. Anglican, Catholic, Methodist, Presbyterian, Pentecostal leaders, together with CAN, Southeast Zone, invite every Igbo heart, young and old, near and far, to join this sacred hour. Prepare your spirit, lift your voice, give thanks to God for the Igbo journey, a journey of courage, faith, and triumph. January 31st, 2026, the Igbo world rises as one.
The news, and in the foreign, the United Nations has launched a $1.4 billion humanitarian appeal for 2026 to address what it described as a neglected crisis in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Nearly 15 million people are facing severe hardship due to conflict, displacement, and climate-related shocks. The UN says funding shortfalls in 2025 forced the closure of 1,000 nutrition centers, while 1.5 million people were left without basic health care. Hundreds of thousands of malnourished children are now without access to life-saving assistance. Aid agencies aim to reach 7.3 million people this year, but the UN stresses that success depends on urgent donor support. Meanwhile, peacekeepers continue repatriation efforts, recently facilitating the return of 34 Rwandan nationals, including former combatants. The Egyptian government is intensifying diplomatic efforts to secure the release of 4 Egyptian sailors detained in Iran. The men were crew members aboard the tanker Reem Al-Khalid, which was seized last month over allegations of fuel smuggling. Iranian authorities say the vessel was intercepted near Qasem Island carrying 4 million liters of illegal fuel and is currently being held at Bandar Abbas port. Tehran has not officially disclosed the vessel's nationality. Egypt's foreign ministry confirms its citizens are facing criminal charges but says discussions are ongoing with relevant authorities. Iran has recently stepped up its crackdown on maritime smuggling due to its heavily subsidized fuel prices. At least 5 5 people have died after a powerful storm swept across central and northern Portugal. Storm Christian brought extreme winds, flying debris, and structural damage across several districts. In Lyria, wind gusts reportedly reached 178 kilometers per hour, damaging infrastructure and knocking out monitoring equipment at a local air base. More than 850,000 residents were left without electricity as the national grid came under strain. Coastal regions are on the red alert due to waves reaching 14 meters, while key transport routes remain blocked by debris and landslides. Prime Minister Luis Montenegro has pledged emergency response measures as recovery efforts begin. Search and rescue teams are combing remote terrain in northern Colombia after a passenger plane disappeared from radar. The Cetena Beechcraft 1900 lost contact minutes before landing in Oceania. The aircraft departed Cucuta with 13 passengers and 2 crew members on board. Local reports indicate the Colombian lawmaker was among those on the flight. Colombia's deployed to the mountains region where the plane was last tracked. The search is complicated by difficult geography and the presence of armed groups in the area. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Washington does not expect further military action in Venezuela. He told senators the administration is now prioritizing diplomacy following recent political developments in the country. Mr. Rubio described communications with interim authorities as constructive and said efforts are on the way toward reopening the U.S. Embassy in Caracas. The U.S. Embassy in Caracas, he framed earlier actions as necessary for regional security. However, critics in the United States have raised concerns about the legality and long-term impact of the administration's Venezuela policy, especially regarding control of the country's oil resources. The United States President Donald Trump has warned Iran that the time is running out for a new nuclear deal. He cited a major U.S. military holdup in the Gulf region, including an aircraft carrier and additional air assets. Iran responded with strong rhetoric, saying its armed forces are ready to defend against any aggression. Tehran maintains its nuclear program is peaceful, while Washington is demanding a halt to uranium enrichment. The rise in tension comes amid reports of internal unrest in Iran and renewed international focus on the country's regional activities. Now moving over to business news. Vice President Kashim Shettima says Africa must move beyond reliance on foreign aid and treat development as long-term development investment. He spoke at the African Social Impact Summit 2026 in Abuja. Shettima promoted patient capital and impact investing, linking economic growth, investment in education, health, and workforce development. He described the approach as strategic and sustainability-driven. The Vice President also launched new initiatives focused on foundational learning and economic inclusion for women and youth, calling for stronger collaboration between government and the private sector. The concession of the Akanu Ibiam International Airport Enugu to a private firm has sparked protests from aviation workers and labor unions, who are demanding greater transparency and stakeholder engagement in the process. The unions say while they are not against airport concessions, they are concerned about job security and the lack of consultation, warning that unresolved issues could disrupt airport operations. Correspondent Jennifer has the details.
We will never say yes to concession. Oh yeah. If you want to kill us, we no go green. We will never say yes to concession. Mama no dey.
Workers and labor unions at Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, staged a protest against the federal government's recent concession of the airport to Aero Alliance Limited. Members of the Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals and the National Union of Air Transport Employees argued that the concession process lacked adequate stakeholder consultation.
Because we are determined that our voices must be heard, and government should respect what the act say, and the labor issues must be penciled down and signed off. before they take over our airport.
Comrade Alale Adedayo, Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals, National President, warned that any arrangement not protecting staff interests is unlikely to succeed, noting that union leaders were not consulted before the agreement.
Concession is the issue. The concession of Enugu Airport, that is the issue. The concession of Enugu that did illegal signing, that they did not do it in a proper way. That is why we are here. The best approach is to do it in a transparency way. Both the proponent and the union, they agree on what to do. It will be transparent, so that's how there will be a way forward.
Comrade Ben Nnabue, National President of the National Union of Air Transport Employees, outlined the union's conditions and demands to the federal government.
The unions are not against concession. So the unions are part of the concession committee. But the aspect that concerns workers has not been fully resolved, because their inputs were expected to communicate to workers and bring back that input and put into the concession agreement. That has not been done. So that is what we are briefing the workers, and we are taking a mandate from them today on what we can do next. I know the government is a responsible government, and they will listen to us to quickly come to the drawing table so that we can quickly resolve this and get done with it.
The unions have given the government a 21-day ultimatum, warning that failure to meet their demands could trigger industrial actions, including a potential shutdown of airport operations. The concession was recently formalized by the Aviation Minister, Mr. Festus Keyamo, as part of the federal government's plan to modernize airports and attract private investment. Jennifer Onibu, Aneke TV.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for that report. Now, still on the news. The British pound showed moderate fluctuation against the naira in early trading. In the official market, it opened at about 1,927 naira and later traded around 1,933 naira. Analysts attribute the movement to improved liquidity and ongoing reforms in Nigeria's foreign exchange system. The central bank's electronic margin platform is credited with supporting price stability. In the power market, the pound trades higher between 2015 and 2013 naira, reflecting continued pressure outside the official window. Meanwhile, the naira maintained its recent gains against the US dollar in the official markets. It traded around 1,396 naira per dollar, remaining below the 1,400 mark. Market observers link the stability to improved. Now moving over to sports. The Nigerian National League has warned clubs stressed that matches must be decided strictly by the rules. The board says it remains committed to fair play and global best practices. League officials plan to consolidate reforms in the second half of the season to improve credibility and competitiveness. Still on sports, Ahmed Musa scored the decisive goal in Kano Pillars defeated Casino United 1-0 on March Day 23. The result lifts Pillars to 18th position ahead of the key fixtures against Rangers. Now moving over to the world of entertainment. Nollywood actress Angela Okore has reportedly been arrested by the Nigerian Police Force Cybercrime Center. She was taken into custody in Lagos following online dispute involving fellow actress Mercy Johnson. Sources say Okore was later transferred to Abuja for further legal proceedings. The case follows a series of controversial social media statements allegedly made by the actress. Authorities have not released full details of the charges, but the matter is now before the courts. Still in entertainment, the Actors Guild of Nigeria has unveiled Junior Pope Nollywood City of Enugu State in honor of late actor John Paul Odowodo, known as Junior Pope. The project includes 150 plots of land for industry members. 3 plots were also allocated to the actor's sons as part of effort to preserve his legacy. Guide leaders say the project will provide housing opportunities and institutional support for practitioners. The development will also host a creative hub and administrative offices, reinforcing Enugu's role as a major center for Nigeria's film industry. And finally, before we go on news around the globe, here's a recap of our top stories. The World Bank is collaborating with state governors across Nigeria to strengthen the delivery of quality education and primary healthcare services. And in Anambra State, Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo has warned traders at the Onitsha market over what he described as an alleged boycott affecting market operations. And on the foreign scene, The United Nations has made an urgent appeal for increased humanitarian assistance to address the worsening crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in business sector, aviation unions have protested the proposed concession of the Akane International Airport, Enugu. The unions are demanding greater transparency in the concession process, expressing concerns over job security, workers' welfare, and long-term applications for the nation's aviation industry. And that's news around the globe on Aneke TV. For more news and live updates, follow us across our social media platforms across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, all at Aneke TV, or call our phone number 070-3043-7110. I'm Deborah Mwakuba. Thank you for watching.
Security is not just police on patrol. It is safety in homes, schools, markets, and mines. Without it, progress is impossible. Be alert, report danger, support community watch. True security is collective responsibility. Culture is identity. Tradition is continuity. And heritage is memory. Together, they tell the story of
Is earned, not inherited or imposed. In Nigeria, however, the persistent triumph of mediocrity over merit continues to shape recruitment processes, elective positions, and leadership outcomes across critical sectors of national life. From public service employment to political office, from academia to corporate governance, troubling pattern has emerged. Access often trumps ability, loyalty outweighs competence, and short-term political calculations override long-term national interests. In the public sector, recruitment exercises are officially designed to be competitive, involving written examinations, interviews, and eligibility screening. Yet, multiple surveys and independent audits have consistently shown that informal influence, patronage networks, and bribery remain significant determinants of who gets hired. This reality has produced ministries, departments, and agencies burdened with underqualified personnel, struggling to deliver on complex policy mandates in a rapidly evolving global environment. The consequences are not abstract. They manifest in delayed project execution, weak policy implementation, inefficient service delivery, and ballooning recurrent expenditure with minimal value creation. When institutions are staffed without regard for skill or capacity, governance becomes reactive rather than strategic. The problem is not limited to recruitment alone. Nigeria's elective political system reflects the same crisis of merit. In many cases, candidates emerge not through rigorous debate, policy clarity, or intellectual depth, but through financial muscle, political godfathers, or ethnic calculations. Electoral outcomes frequently reward popularity, patronage of vote buying over competence and vision. The result is a leadership deficit that cuts across local government councils, state assemblies, governorships, and even the national legislature, institutions constitutionally taxed with lawmaking, oversight, and representation, yet often lacking the technical depths required to interrogate budgets, scrutinize policies, or design forward-looking legislation. Other sectors tell a similar story. In education, the erosion of merit in academic appointment has weakened research quality and global competitiveness. In some tertiary institutions, promotions and leadership roles are influenced more by internal politics than scholarly output. In the corporate space, family ties and informal networks sometimes override professional management principles, limiting innovation and sustainability. Ironically, Nigeria continues to produce world-class professionals who excel in merit-driven systems abroad, from medicine and engineering to technology, finance, and academia. Their success outside the country reinforces a painful truth. The problem is not Nigerian capacity or Nigerian systems. Countries that have achieved rapid development offer contrasting examples. Singapore, Rwanda, and South Korea institutionalize meritocracy through transparent recruitment, performance-based promotion, and zero tolerance for patronage. Leadership selection in these systems prioritize competence, integrity, and accountability, even when politically inconvenient. Back home, the cost of failing to do the same is increasingly evident. Brain drain has accelerated as skilled Nigerians seek environments where effort is rewarded fairly. Public trust in institutions has declined, and citizens grow more cynical about processes they perceive as rigged or predetermined. Yet, experts argue that the tide can be turned. Strengthening meritocracy requires deliberate reform, not rhetoric. Transparent digital recruitment platforms, independently supervised examinations, enforceable sanctions for recruitment breaches, and clear performance metrics are critical starting points. In the political space, electoral reforms that reduce the influence of money, strengthen internal party democracy, and encourage issue-based campaigns are essential to improving leadership quality. Civil society, the media, and the electorate also carry responsibility to interrogate candidates, demand competence, and reject mediocrity at the ballot box. Ultimately, meritocracy is not elitism, it is fairness. It is the assurance that every Nigerian, regardless of background, has a genuine chance to rise based on ability and effort. Without it, institutions weaken, leadership falters, and national ambition remains unrealized. For Nigeria to compete globally, govern effectively, and harness its vast human capital, merit must no longer be optional. It must become the standard. In recruitment, in elections, and in every field where decisions shape the nation's future.
We're on campus today talking to freshers about their first days in university, the surprises, the challenges, and the excitement of beginning a new journey. Let's hear what they have to say.
My advice is that always come for lectures and always concentrate because it's not easy in universities like this to not to come to lectures and you think that that you just come for exam and that right, and also be coordinated, and also anything they ask for, just always do it, and always be punctual in everything, and 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 also if you want to become one of the best in IMT, you have to follow up if it's a practical and all other things. You always be the best. Always in a spiritual life like this, always follow God. Do not backslide. Like my spiritual father always say that any day, anytime, do not rely on men, but rely on God only. Do not ever say that you want to go and meet man for something. Always rely on God. Even though you have problems, just always rely on God. And even for relationship, relationship like this, do not think that a relationship can be just for nothing. If what become if what be in a relationship like this, always be smart. Do not get relationship to get into your head, but always be smart in this kind of relationship.
The advice that I would give to my fellow freshers is that focus on yourself and know what you came to campus to do. Know what you came to campus to do, because so many people are here not just to read or to get distracted, and so many are here to distract others that want to wants to achieve something in the future. And also, like me coming to this school, this place is not my intention. I don't want to come here, but the way I'm seeing things and the friends that I'm making.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, 042. Thank you for joining us today. You're tuning into Sunrise on Aneke TV, where every sunrise begins with delightfulness. I'm bringing you today's daily dose of brightness. I am Deborah Wakuba, coming to you live from our studio here in Bambrat, Enugu.
And good morning to you, our global audience. I'm Uche Osai. Wherever you are, at home, in your office, or in traffic, thank you for letting us into your space this beautiful morning. We're here to refresh, inform, and motivate.
Yes, and today is Thursday, 29 January 2026. So we've got a power-packed morning for you today where we've got our latest news, what's trending, our updates, and of course that special sunrise vibe to help us begin our day.
So, grab that cup of coffee or tea, relax, enjoy the sunrise because we're here for you.
Yes, and today's sunrise will be kicking things off with our quote of the day. With was that thoughtful, was that inspiring, words that offer insight to whatever we do to keep us well focused, stay motivated, and stay well driven.
Then, it's straight into the day's top headline. All the key news updates that you need to remain informed will be shared, hot and tasty.
Yes, and right after that, we'll be giving you our weather report covering cities across the southeast and beyond, so you would know what to expect before stepping out, or you stepped out already. It is to keep you throughout the rest of the day.
And later we'll bring to you the man of many parts, the sports oracle, commissioner for enjoyment and the mental mechanic. And of course, we'll let you be informed with our business news updates.
Yes. Now moving over to our inspiration segment today, which is our quote for today. Our quote for today is coming from Chinua Achebe, like we all know, who is a renowned writer, not only a writer, but very known for his diverse knowledge and also his cultural awareness. And now in his quote, he says, "A man who pays respect to the great paves the way for his own greatness." I'm going to take that quote again, coming from Chinua Achebe, that says, "A man who pays respect to the great paves the way for his own greatness." Now, in this quote, Chinua Achebe is carrying a deep lesson about humility, about wisdom, and about growth. And he's also saying that when a person recognizes honor, if a person recognizes honor and learns from those who are great, whether in character, wisdom, achievement, or experience, they are not diminishing themselves. Rather, they are preparing their own path of greatness. So when you come in contact with someone who has achieved something, someone who, or when you honor someone who is above you, you're not only diminishing yourself, you're not stooping yourself low, but rather you are learning an experience, you're learning something great from that person. That is what Chino Achebe is also telling us today. Mr. Auchi, I'd like to know your own thoughts on this quote from Chino Achebe.
Right. The literary icon, whenever he speaks, brings out the depths of Igbo proverbs and meaning, and exports it to the world. And this morning, when he says that a man who pays respect to the great paves the way for his own greatness, entirely captures that Igbo worldview about one being respectful to elders, and not just being respectful to elders this morning. If you are respectful as a human being, then you open up the channel for you to learn, and the ones you respect will definitely be open to let you in on new knowledge, and that way you would excel in life. And that's what the literary icon is telling us this morning. And you did talk about humility. Yes, for you to excel in anything, you have to come to the table being humble, and it offers you opportunity. A lot of men have been offered seats at the table because they were humble enough to be able to learn from others. And what does this tell you? That you do not need to be jealous of successful people. No, you don't need to envy them. What you need to do is sit around them, celebrate their success, and by way doing, you will be able to pave way for yourself. And when you've done away with, jealousy and you've imbibed the culture of humility, it leads way to what the Igbos say, na nwata kwọcha aka, osoro ọgaranya rie nri. Meaning that when a child washes his hands clean, he will feast and dine with kings. And what does that tell you? You relate it with the Igbo worldview. You see this Igbo apprenticeship system. How does this relate to that? You see, when you get into this system, you see that a boy is brought from the community or the village, goes to the city and begins to serve his master. He serves diligently, he has to be respectful, he has to be diligent, he has to be humble. So it imbibes every of the aspect in this very quote that Chinua Achebe is communicating. And what happens? The master replicates himself in that boy. So quite often you see the boys who have passed through the Igbo apprenticeship system being successful, and that has led the Harvard, to come Harvard Business School to come study this Igbo apprenticeship system, and has preached that the other everywhere, even in high institution, it should be adopted. And what does that teach us? That yes, this is a pathway to greatness. That's such that people who have always passed through that system sort of being better at what they do, and they have been successful over time. And when one thing is an analysis where you see even the people who have been well educated, well exposed, but have not passed through the Igbo apprenticeship system, when you take them to the marketplace or into business, a number of times you see an unlettered individual dusting them in business because they've taken time, out of this pathway of respect, humility, and diligence. They've learned the tradition and culture in that very field such that they can best anybody in that field. You see someone who has never been seen the four walls of a university, into importation, knowing how to calculate when to make the moves, the business move, that it's time to either increase prices, it's time to leave this other hardware and move to other hardware and import a different thing. They become well schooled in it because they've been through a process. And that's what Chinua Achebe is telling us this morning, that when you pay respect to the great, you are paving your own way to greatness. So that system should be imbibed. And which, when you relate it to the good book, what does the good book say? It says, show me a man who is diligent in his work, and he will sit before kings and not mere men. And what is he saying here? For you to be diligent, you have to be one who respects greatness. And from that, being diligent in what you do means that you have the ambition to aspire to be great. And that leads to another aspect. You see, successful people are always the most humble people around because the process they went through, they've imbibed that culture of humility because it's a process. And what happens? They become. That's why when you listen to people who are successful, they will tell you that the money you don't have up here cannot be in your pocket. It starts from the way you think. Is a whole lot of process, and that process is what Chinua Achebe is communicating this morning. A man who pays respect to great, to the great, paves the way for his own greatness, and there's no doubt about it. You become what you admire. You become the process upon which you arrive. And you see a lot of people, they say that it is the process that matter. It's not the end that justifies the means. The process really matter. And if you undergo a process, that's why we take time, to culture our children, to send them in through kindergarten. They get through the primary school, from the secondary school to the university. Life is a process, and it is that process that thrusts that greatness upon you. So you cannot gain the best from people when you don't pay them respect. Chinua Achebe is letting us this morning to know that respect is a very big ingredient for one to attain greatness in life. And when you are respectful to those who are above you, even in workplace, even in business community, people will give you certain information that will open way for you. That's why when they talk about climbing the ladder, you see that every successful person will cite one person at one point in time that helped them climb the ladder because they've been respectful, they've been humble enough to learn from these other people, and the doors will continue opening. And the other way around, you look at what happens to arrogant persons. When people say that this is an arrogant person, what do you see? People tend to move away from them. Opportunities tend to be limited. So this morning, I encourage all of us that we should pay keen attention to the words of the literary icon, the hero Chinua Achebe, when whoever he's speaking, because he brings the depth, hidden knowledge, especially very rich in cultural Igbo culture. He exposes it to the world, and like the Igbo say, "Anasna ilu," they manage a ryoku, that the proverbs and idioms are with the oil with which you eat well, and that's what Achebe does very well. He simplifies, the most difficult things and puts it in a way that it captures the very essence of what is being communicated. So this morning, let's listen to Chino Achebe by knowing that a man who pays respect to the great paves the way for his own greatness.
All right, thank you very much for that. And also, he's also saying that respect here is acknowledging the efforts and sacrifices of those who came before us, and also learning from their successes and their mistakes, and also showing humility rather than arrogance. And Ochabe is also warning us against the mindset that says, I don't need anybody's help, I already know it all, and also that true greatness grows from respect, learning, and continuity, not our own ego. So while we are paying respect to those before us, while we are paying respect in order for us to be great, let us also keep in mind that every new sunrise is an opportunity. It's a platform where we grow or where we learn something new or simply be more present in whatever we do. Now let us know what this quote means to you. You can drop your thoughts across our social media feeds: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, or at Aneke TV. Or call our phone number 070-3043-7110. And up next is our weather report for today.
Yes, we'll take a look at the weather reports across major cities in the southeast today.
Dry day with plenty of sunshine peeking through some clouds. So expect temperatures climbing into the low to mid 30 degrees Celsius with a warm breeze keeping things lively. Rain not in today's forecast. So go out, soak up the sun, and stay hydrated.
Good morning, the coast city. Over in Enugu is shaping up to be another warm, dry day. You will feel that sunny warmth with a classic dry season weather with highs around the low 30 degrees Celsius, perfect for outdoor shows. But don't forget your sunglasses.
And in Abakaliki is also feeling the heat today, with temperatures likely hitting the low 30 degrees Celsius. It's one of those days where you step outside and bam, sunshine greets you like an old friend. Keep cool and take breaks in the shade.
And good morning, Imo State. Over to Owerri. You've got heat turned up. Expect hot temperatures possibly into the mid 30 degrees Celsius. A sweet, friendly weather with lots of sunshine. A few clouds might dance across the sky, but no big rainstorms interrupting your plans. Keep that water close.
And lastly, in Umahia, it's hot but wonderfully dry today with sunny to partly cloudy skies. You will enjoy the warmth, which is perfect for early risers and market goers. Just a light breeze to hug your morning.
So, wherever you are in the southeast today, stay safe, stay cool, dress light, but do remember that either rain or shine, we've got you covered. And this is your weather report here on Sunrise on Aneke TV. We'll go on a short break and we'll return with news updates.
Culture is identity. Tradition is continuity. And heritage is memory. Together, they tell the story of a people. When we lose our culture, we lose ourselves. Celebrate your roots, language, attire, food, and festivals. They are treasures worth preserving. Security is not just police on patrol. It is safety in homes, schools, markets, and mines. Without it, progress is impossible. Be alert, report danger, support community watch. True security is collective responsibility.
Sunrise on Aneke TV. Now we'll be taking a look at our major headlines making the news today from the Nation, Punch, Vanguard, and the Daily Trust paper.
And joining us this morning is the man of many parts, the mental mechanic, the commissioner of enjoyment, Mr. Goodhope. It's a pleasure to have you here on Sunrise this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope you rested well.
Yes.
All right.
Now moving over to our papers for today, starting from the Nation paper, where the headline says APC kicks off Congress's convention plans Monday. And in the Punch newspaper, the major headline there says outrage over police crackdown, Lagos anti-demolition protesters. And on the Vanguard paper, the headline says battle for Kano, Kwankwaso blows hot, Yusuf digs in. And on the Daily Trust paper, electoral bill delay fuels uncertainty ahead 2027. I'll be starting today's paper from the Punch headline, and the Punch headline that reads outrage over police crackdown on Lagos anti-demolition protesters. Public anger is rising in Lagos following a police crackdown on residents protesting demolitions in their communities. Protesters say they were peacefully demanding answers over planned demolitions when security forces moved in. Rights group and civil society organizations are now calling for accountability while authorities insist law and order must be maintained.
All right. All right. When we see the headline, police, this is a usual headline, and it's always been the case, followed by the outrage over police crackdown on Lagos anti-demolition protests. And we'll start by looking at why are these individuals protesting, right? And why is it that usually we'll see police high-handedness when it comes to protest wherever and around Nigeria, for example, and even outside Nigeria? First of all, let's look at what are they protesting for. These are Lagos citizens who have converged from various looks and crannies of Lagos State. Speaking about people who are from Owede Onirun, look at people from Oworishoki and Makoko, coming to protest. And what are they protesting? That government has displaced them, without adequate compensation or relocation. We know that, yes, one thing that we won't take away from the planners or policymakers of Lagos State or the government of Lagos State over time is that they have the vision to transform Lagos from the city it is right now to a mega city. And when you look at turning a state or a city to a mega city, then a lot is involved. You have to look at reimagining the architectural design of that very city. And at the heart of this is that over time we know that historically, though Lagos has evolved to the city it is today, but there are a lot of slums in Lagos. When you go to around Makoko, Owede, Oroshoki, and all looks and crannies of Lagos, they are littered with what people will tag as slums, or ghettos or shanties, depending on the nature of the very place. And this one thing over time we've seen that the Lagos state government, from again, they tend to want to, demolish this whole area to give it a new lift, to, fit into that mega city status that they want Lagos to occupy. While I give it to the planners or the runners of Lagos over time, they've tried, in their ability to, elevate Lagos to that status. When you look at the Eco Atlantic City that is being planned, these are, good development efforts and strides. But with having said that, another thing that is quite, germane that you can bring into this conversation is that when we're planning a mega city, part of the plan should be what and how do we locate the people that will be displaced? Because we know that a lot of persons will be displaced in terms of when you are talking about a new road network, a lot of infrastructures, you may have to displace the old infrastructures that is no longer serving the new city. And part of it is that when you look at the architectural design of Lagos and the environmental beauty of Lagos, you know that Lagos, is mainly an island that you have it has occasioned traffic in and around Lagos such that man hours are lost in traffic. And these are things you have to reimagine in creating a mega city for Lagos. And that would in itself lead to demolition. Having said that, now people's houses, people's homes, people's offices will be affected. But one thing is that demand that government that is for the people who have a human look, they have a humane approach to issues. Why they make these plans to elevate the city, there should equally be plans for the displaced. Where are you going to relocate them? Some of these individuals, are in their ancestral homeland. They do not have any other place beyond where they've settled. And a lot of settlers who are in these very places that are being demolished will be displaced, and they may not have no other place to relocate. Making the protesters, position germane, such that if government is demolishing where they are living, they are demanding that their government, they have brought into power, should be able to relocate them, give them a new place to stay. And for me, that's a legitimate thing to ask of your government. That government, yes, in itself, what is, it leads me to that very question. Why do we have government? What is the job of government? Beyond, protection of life, of properties of citizens. Another thing is that you provide welfare for the good of the people that you govern. And in this very instance, that you're demolishing these people for, development, or for one reason or the other, perhaps these are shanties that are now encroachment into government-owned area or pathways for development. But government needs to have a human face and relocate this very individual to a new place. Having said that, government has failed to do very that. And for them, the only way to get the attention of government is by protest. And protest in itself is a legitimate tool of negotiation in a democracy. But one thing I have to point out that yes, why the constitution has given us the inalienable right to freedom of assembly, to be able to communicate and air our view to the head, we have to do it in an orderly manner. Having said that, this individual has taken to their legitimate right to protest, to convey, their demands to government, and which is acceptable anywhere in a democracy. Is only in an authoritarian government where you see that people are clamped down on. In Nigeria, we did witness during the military eras, where there were clampdowns on protesters, those who do not align with the military principles or the government of the day. A lot of individuals, remember the case of the Nadeko, who were fighting the government of the then junta, the late General Sani Abacha. A lot of them were sent into exiles, and these things happen in military governments all over the world, where opinions are suppressed, people are not allowed to protest. But in democracy, protest is a legitimate tool for people to let their government know their position on issues, especially when they feel that they are not being listened to or they are not being consulted in certain things. And having said that, then another position is what position should government assume when there is a protest? And that protest happens to be hinged on the duties of the police, which is equally to safeguard, through government, the life and property of citizens. And one thing that one expects when there is a protest, yes, we expect the availability of police because the law has made it such a way that when you want to embark on protest, you have to notify the police for protection. And again, for them to be able to protest the protesters and see that hoodlums they do not hijack such protests. So seeing policemen around protest sites or areas is equally in order, leading us to another issue here. Then what does police do? Bringing to point what really usually happens in our climb, where we see the police always want to align or be seen with the government of the day to be protecting the interests of the government rather than the protection or the provision as enshrined in their, the police act for them to protect the citizens and see that such protests, are aligned in a peaceful manner. But what happens, though police in this very instance has come out to say that the protesters were unruly and they were blocking the highway, which would cause additional chaos or lead to loss of lives. And if that's the case, I tell you that the police, yes, are in order. We've seen over time when you look at the hunger protest that did happen in Nigeria sometime, we saw that when that protest started, the police assumed the protective responsibility to protect protesters until things, degenerated the way it did. Having said that, I implore every protester going forward, having said that that's a legitimate tool, should be abide a peaceful, means in leading their protest for whatever they intend to protest against. And in this instance, this individual having marched from they converged in Ikeja, under the bridge, moving to Alausa, where the seat of government in Lagos is cited, where the legislatures are to convey their, their disaffection to their elected legislators, to give their meaning, but they were blocked at the entrance to the Alausa, and leading to more altercation where even certain individuals, some legislators came to address them. They refused until they allowed access into the premises. Now, leading to another question, why wouldn't these protesters allow the legislators address them? Again, it speaks to how we handle issues in Nigeria. And that leads me to talking about government, the way government in third world nations, Africa in particular, though I will not exaggerate some Western countries we've seen even in the United States of America, where the government takes certain, position against protesters, seeing them as always as being that of the voice of the opponent or the opponent sponsoring such protests. But I think that the right thing to do is that whenever there is a legitimate concern of the citizens, that the government should be able to send delegation to interact, dialogue with this individual, and then find a purposeful way forward. And in this instance, whenever you do not do that, you see that it may lead to chaos. And why would police usually, when you have a peaceful protest, come to the ground, bearing live ammunition, which in many instances have been used? And if you go back to history, you will see that a number of times when police are involved, we come to protest with this high-handedness, it usually escalates beyond the peaceful protest that we know it to be, to to a chaos, and that leading me to why would the police in this instance begin to use tear gas cannon against the people, and in some instances we see them use water cannon as well and live ammunition against protesters. These are things that should be jettisoned. In fact, the police should be the ones leading the negotiation effort with every protesters. And if I go back in history, one remembers what happened during the NSAS protest in Nigeria. That protest in itself started peacefully. It was a peaceful convergence of the Nigerian youth in around 2020, where they wanted their voice to be heard and lay their legitimate concern against police brutality. What happened until the police now got involved and their usual manner, started to come against the protesters with tear gas, water cannon, and in some instances, like in Oshobo, in Oyo State, where a certain Isiaka was shot, allegedly shot by police, things degenerated and assumed the violent nature that the NSAS protest is now known and ascribed to in history. And it takes me down memory lane to begin to see places where police has intervened beyond the protection of protesters to assume the position of government, and instill this high-handedness. It usually degenerates to anarchy and chaos. Look at what happened in the case of during the Floyd, yes, during the Floyd protest in the U.S., where the whole procession at the Princeton police station was so peaceful until the police fired tear gas cannons at the protesters, and things assumed, went dive for the worst, and it became a violent protest, leading to several, injuries and all that amongst the people. So, in this very instance, one may plead with the authorities that we should equally and often be able to dialogue with whichever group that protests. This will not be the last we'll see of protesters. People will continue to protest in every climate. There is always a situation where you see people who are disgruntled. People will not always align with your views. Remember that when they used equally in the NSAS issue at Loki Toget, they were all peaceful until the police intervened trying to disperse them. And then things degenerated. And I did cite again the case of George Floyd, protest in 2020, where at the third preaching, the people now, though peaceful until the police, started with their tear gas cannon and pepper spray, leading turning things to violence. Even when you travel through history in Philadelphia in 2020, they are equally, even in Salt Lake, there are places where protests started, peacefully and later turned violent due to police inability to handle such situation. And in that case, we have to admonish the police and even even governments all over the world, and especially in Nigeria, not to see protest as a dissent or the face or the voice of opposition. There's nothing wrong. You can dialogue with this individual. I equally as an undergraduate, I remember those Aluta days. We've been in a lot of protests, and what happened? We had a vice chancellor who would call the student union government for negotiation, and a number of times when you see the leaders of, there are always leaders in every protest. Try get the leaders, then start negotiation. Whenever you get the leaders of a protest and you start negotiation, you see that you have a way of calming frayed nerves. And I remember in those days, whenever the school authorities start that negotiation, is you begin to have a divided house, and you see that that protest will no longer achieve that force, that unique force that the gathering of students entails, and you begin to see dissenting voices, and before you know it, that becomes the end of protest. So negotiation should be seen, and engagement should be seen as a veritable tool, to interact with protesters, and not this high-handedness that we are now used to whenever there's protest. And if my memory serves me right, I remember in 2003, following the then election, where the late president Muhammadu Buhari and his then running mate, the late icon Chuba Kadibo, former Senate president, where they were in a rally, to protest for that election. Then the police, used deployed tear gas canisters, and we know, as is alleged, the statement died from the tear gas canisters that were shot at them at that rally, and being that he is said to be asthmatic, then the complication led to his untimely demise. So this is why we need to renegotiate our approach and engagement to protesters. But one thing that is certain is that people will protest, and we should ask, do they have legitimate concern to protest? And in the case of these protesters in Lagos, I am not their advocate, but I can tell you one thing, that they are protesting on legitimate ground. Their concern is quite germane, that the government has not considered their plight. The houses are being demolished, you've not relocated them, so you have to, one way or the other, engage them. And engage them, they need to do that fast, so that this does not degenerate again. We know the position of Lagos. When you look at the protest that has been happening in this nation over time, even when this present president of Nigeria did then, when we protested against the removal of fuel subsidy, it did start in Lagos, where everybody congregated at the Ganifa Umi Park at Ojota, and things from there escalated, moved to other cities, Kano, Port Harcourt, throughout the federation. So it tells you the position Lagos occupies in Nigeria, which is why every government in place in Lagos should be, very aware and sensitive to the plight of the people, because it may start as an issue that is just particular to Lagos, but other states may begin to interpret and read meaning that they too are undergoing the same, the same situation, and they bear the same plight, and you see things begin to escalate beyond control, which is why I always advocate. And in this very instance, the government of Lagos may have a very genuine reason why they are demolishing, but in demolishing people's homes, you need to relocate them or give them time to relocate. And in situation where such individuals may not be able to, relocate themselves, then government, that's why we have government. But there's no doubt that, yes, to transform Lagos from the slums, from the city it is, to a mega city is welcome, as that will position Nigeria, not just economically, but a viable ground. We saw the amount Nigeria generates from 30 December, and that gives credence to why Lagos wants more development and turn the city to a mega city as fast as possible. But we shouldn't do that at the detriment of the inhabitants of the state. They should be catered for. There should be adequate plans for them, and government should engage them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Now moving over to our next paper, coming from the Vanguard newspaper, that the headline reads, Battle for Kano, Kwankwaso blows hot, Yusuf Dixon. Now the political temperature in Kano State is climbing fast. Former Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso has taken a strong stance on recent developments in the state, while current Governor Abba Yusuf remains firm, insisting his administration will not be distracted. Analysts say the bout also reflects deeper political realignment that could define Kano politics ahead of the next general elections. Mr. Oji.
All right. Kano State has been in news for quite some time. Yes, and all that is happening is not unexpected. It's just like when someone takes your baby, you cry foul. You remember that case in the scripture where two women were dragging their baby and they had to go to the king for solution. And in this instance, what we're seeing is seeking solution to what happened. You see that the Kwankwasia movement, let me use the word that they feel breathed because their baby has been taken away from them. And who do they go to? The people are the king now. And that leading me to the question is not unexpected. We've seen the trend all over the place. It's been a trend in this dispensation where everybody is trying to align with the government in the center. We've seen defections from every region of this nation. And even more surprising than the Kano, defection of Governor Yusuf to APC is that these defections equally happened in southeast Nigeria. And in the case of Enugu State, for example, where APC have struggled over the years to make incursion into, and we now saw a sitting governor elected under the platform of the PDP. I wanted to say the defunct PDP, but they will come for my head. But yes, because I don't know the position of where PDP is today, if it's still in existence or they are buried with the whole lot of crisis, that's bedeviled the party. But be that as it may, we've seen many governors elected under their platform, though, really, has moved to the APC, and especially in Enugu State, where we've seen that Governor Peter Mba unexpectedly, moved to APC. Not many people saw that coming. Moving from Enugu State, when you go to River State, you've seen that the governor too has spotted. Delta State, the same thing. Go to Bayelsa. So all over the region, every governor, every sitting governors are porting from their party to the real ruling party, the APC. So it's not quite surprising. And everybody, if you're a political watcher in Nigeria, you'll be quite aware and know that yes, that the APC government led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if he is that political sagacious as he is said to be, a good as he is said to be the political henchman, if sorry to use that word, that he is being so deft politically that he would want Kano State for himself, and there is no saying that they will do everything to get the governor over because by getting the governor over is so to a certain extent that you will be able to make inroad in winning the political structures of that state. And in the case of Governor Yusuf, is not unexpected that Ganduje, who leads the Gandujia movement in Kano, a former governor of Kano State and a former leader of the party, would himself want the governor of his state to join his political party. And I told people that when Governor Ganduje did at that instant, leave the position as the leader of the party for on her grounds, I told them that there's a lot brewing because if you know Kano politics for what it is and how the various political warriors of Kano State has fought over the political position of Kano over time, then you would know that Ganduje will not just go home and sit down and watch. No, there's none of them who doesn't want to control the politics of Kano State. And that's why I said that when Ganduje was going home, we are going to see a political fight, and it has come to manifest in the way and manner that Governor Yusuf has defected to APC. And now, Kwankwaso has come out to say that that was a big shock. With the interview he granted to BBC that is monitored, you will see that he said it's a very big shock to him, and that many, and myself inclusive, has alluded to the fact that this could be a political plan between him and the governor for the governor to move to the ruling APC, which Kwankwaso has come out publicly to deny that it was shocking to him, and he doesn't understand or know why the governor would move to APC, that he has taken the mandate of the people, the victory they fought for over time, and now taking it to the camp of the enemy, referring the Gandujia movement as the camp of the enemy. And having said that, then you would begin to speak to what will happen in Kano State when you are moving forward to 2027 election. I would say that what has happened in Kano has a way of, discussing a political realignment of 2027. This very movement in Kano State will affect a lot of the policies that we are going to see moving forward in 2026 to 2027. And what am I trying to say? Remember the votes that come from Kano. Kano is one of the KK states that will give you a bulk vote. Wherever Kano is aligned, usually, irrespective of what happened the Jonathan era, but we've seen through history that wherever the KK states are aligned, that such political party end up, bringing up the president of the nation. And it's no doubt that that's why Kano is so much coveted. But now that Governor Yusuf has moved to the APC, citing party intrigues and disaffection and a lot of disgruntledness in the party as to reason why he's moving, we are not going to say that the Kwankwasia movement will let them be without a fight. I know that the Kwankwasia movement is now, they are now growing up, getting ready for a fight. And I tell you, the politics of Kano State will be very, very interesting moving forward, because at one end, we've seen the Gandujia movement welcoming the Governor Yusuf Abba into their fold. If you did watch the defection, you will see where Gandujia was raising the hand of Governor Yusuf, which Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso described that hand raising as a mark of failure on the part of governor. That signifies his failure come 2027. But I tell you one thing that is so spectacular about Kano is that the politics of Kano is mirrored by and for the people. And that is why a lot of political observers have difficulties understanding the political mathematics as to why the Governor Yusuf Abba now decided to realign with the APC. And why do I say that? You see that the political movement of Kano is aligned to the Talakawas. That's what when you talk about the Talakawas, you talk about the downtrodden of the society. And this has been the way they fashion their politics. The most successful political bigwigs in Kano, and that is what Senator Rabi Musa Kwankwaso has done over time, galvanize the Talakawas and have a movement that they don't just see it as a political movement. They hold on to it as a way of life in itself, and you always see them with that red cap. They are so beholden to the movement, such that he is now coming out to say, and this is why a lot of us wonder what led Governor Yusuf to make that move to APC, because we see that the Kwankwasia movement, which is a hub of the Talakawas, will now begin to realign. And one thing they do very well is that they are always anti-status quo, and and Kwankwaso has harnessed this very well over time, leading to the number of votes they were able to garner in the last election, where NNPP won the majority votes in Kano State as per the presidential election, and even bringing up the governor that now defected to APC, beating the incumbent governor's political party. And you see, that's why we're projecting 2026 to 2027 is going to be a big fight between these various movements. Now we're seeing that the Gandujia movement has welcomed the governor. Having said that, and when you told this line of argument of a party structure that is inbuilt for the masses, the Talakawas, you remember Malamaminu Kano of the Nepal, the northern elements. You see his politics was somehow pro-people. And you go back through history, is it the Sabo Bakinzuo? Look at his politics in the Second Republic. He was a governor of the state under the PRP in around 1983. Their politics is always mirrored around the Talakawas. Is it former Governor Shekaru of Kano State? Shekaru, you see his politics is always like that of Aminu Kano, the people-centered, the Talakawa-centered kind of politics. And that's why you saw a lot of disaffection when they heard that the governor wants to become to the APC. Because I know that a lot of the Talakawas in Kano are aligned with the Kwankwasia movement. But politics is what it is. And just like the former governor, Ganduje, has said that for him, there's still a lot of room for reconciliation, being that he's been a two-time deputy to Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso when he was the governor of the state. He was his deputy during their first term after they lost, and then when they came back, Kwankwaso still chose him, and he later on succeeded Kwankwaso as the governor of Kano State. And according to him, he has left the room open for more conversation that he is open to, reconciling with his former political ally, and that since they are of the same faith, that their faith, doesn't allow bitterness, that it is politics, and there's still room for reconciliation where they can all come down under one umbrella in one interest and propagate the interest of Kano politically as under one political fold. But like I did mention, 2027 will be a very, very interesting one to watch, especially given the unraveling of things in Kano State. And quite interesting is that we saw the son of Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, Mustafa, resign his position from the cabinet of the, yes, to from the position of the, they've given him in the government of the led by Governor Yusuf. So there are a lot of individuals who would equally resign, and I know that the deputy governor too did not resign with or did not defect with the governor. So there are a lot of intricate uh, um, things that will unravel as we journey along towards 2027. But I tell you, to be a very political scenario to interesting political scenario to watch.
Yeah, my question is, what if at the end of the day, at that place of the puzzle, the power puzzle, they now have to one person now has to come back to APC or now has to join APC, looking at our political system and what has always been happening. You know that there are several of our governors have said, oh, they are not going to join APC. Several of senators, a lot of people have, in the early days of APC said they're not going to join this particular movement. But as time goes on, we now see a lot of defection from political parties to APC, and it is something that we have to just look into. That it could be, because my own is that as the commentary was going on, I was just thinking about it. What if at the end of the day we're going to still have this? We're going to have Kwakwasiya movement, and we're going to have these two parties reconcile, and then the APC will now, welcome Kwakwasiya too. So at that point, all the whole G3s, all the whole, because there's a possibility of reconciliation in politics.
No, let me tell you this. There is a triumvirate political scenario in Kano State. Before the emergence of Ganduje, what we saw was the dominance of Senator Musa Rabiu Kwankwaso and the former governor Ibrahim Shekaro. But now Ganduje has joined the fray, and I tell you that it's going to be a three-way division that we are going to watch. What I can tell you for sure over time, if you've studied the politics of Kano State, is that whenever Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso defects to a political party, where, for example, let's say Senator Kwankwaso is defecting to APC and Shakaro is in APC, not definitely that you will see Shakaro leaving APC for another political party. And in this instance, I cannot tell you that that will not be the case again, while I do not rule out the possibility of a Kwankwaso moving to APC. But what I can tell you is that there will always be serious contention as to who will dominate the politics of Kano State. What is at stake here is not just the position of Kano, but it's as to who calls the shot to the political destiny of Kano State. And I tell you, Chakoro, Gandujia, Kwankwasia, none of them is ready to give up. And I tell you, a lot of water has crossed under the bridge. There was a time where we were expecting a reconciliation of Kwankwaso and Shekaro to be in one party, and that did not happen. We saw Shekaro move the other way. So it is politics, yes, there is a possibility, but you may not be surprised. A day will come when you see Kwankwaso returning to APC and Ganduje moving the other way. But I tell you, politics is always a game of interest. So you can never say never. It may happen, but these individuals, I tell you, are all contending for who will control the political soul of Kano State. But we have another individual in the fray, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who we've seen, with some kind of magic win that has, somehow hoodwinked every state governor to want to align with the APC or to defect to the APC. Even those of them who are in other political parties will tell you that they are aligned with the government at the center. We've seen Governor of Osun State, for example, refuse to defect to APC. Abet negotiation not working out well, move to another political party, but say that he still supports President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We saw the governor of Anambra State, who is in Abga, speak eloquently to his support of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we'll see a lot of governors aligning. So it won't be surprised if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu equally, waves that magic wand to break these whole individuals under one political party. And that's why I did tell you that we are seeing a situation that what has happened in Kano will cause a lot of realignment, going into 2027 election.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now we're moving over to our next paper for today from the Daily Trust paper, and the headline says electoral bill delay fuels uncertainty ahead of 2027. Concerns are growing as delays in passing the electoral reform bill continue to cast a shadow over preparations for the 2027 elections. Stakeholders warn that unresolved legal and procedural issues could affect planning, transparency, and confidence in the electoral process. Calls are now mounting on the National Assembly to act swiftly to avoid last-minute chaos. Mr. Goodhope, I'd like to know your thoughts on this.
Well, basically how the whole legislative system has been and how in our system where we need some assent, where we need views to be assent, to be giving a right to go into action by the system where it has been delayed a lot of times. I want to start saying this from the angle of how it has really been so far. That several times there are some delays in action, and this has caused fuel issue to rise. Because looking at the situation of our economy, coming from the side of petrol and the gas and other things, and how there have been a little series of battles coming from the import and export industry of petrol, coming from the small time puzzles here and there. You will see that there has been a need for this to happen over time. There has been a need for this issue to be settled. But still right now, we are still going back and forth in the administration of this particular thing, which has really caused the fuel issue to, the petrol issue to take a turn, which is not working out. So we're looking at how this is going to be, and I don't know what
And looking at the whole scenario when we're talking about this electoral bill, as is being reported, you do remember that around December the House of Representatives sat, on this electoral reform bill, and now it is beholden on the Senate to equally, sit. And there is no doubt when people speak to this affection, leading to the delay, in passing this electoral bill 2025 or 2026, as the case may be. We've seen, like the other day, that it was brought up. They had to, it was in the other paper of the Senate, but it was stepped down for discussion, being that the chairman of the electoral committee, Senator Simeon Lalong of APC Plateau State, uh, Plateau South APC, was not in the chambers that they stepped it down. But be that as it may, there's worrying concern that this delay may, is taking a longer time. Every Nigerian and every observer in Nigeria was thinking that by now we should be done with the electoral act as to know the guidelines for the next election. And this delay, there's no doubt, is going to impact the next election, and one is hoping that by now they will be done with it. And a lot of individuals have already come out to accuse the Senate, of protecting their particular interest, that the electoral act as it is now favors a lot of the present politicians who rode at the back of the inaccuracies and incorrectness in that bill to get to where they are, and a lot of them may not want to see such laws tampered with, that leading to why we have this delay. But be that as it may, when we look at the impact this delay will have on our electoral system, then you understand that there is every need to be in a hurry to pass the bill, because it has far-reaching implication on our electoral process. And this delay, you look at from every angle, there's need for this amendment to happen, and the Senate should hasten up the way the House of Rep has moved to, sit, deliberate, and look into this bill. Let us have a comprehensive amendment, passed on time, so that INEC can be able to fashion out a timetable for the 2027 election. And I tell you, a lot of people are confused as to when the election would happen. Remember that there is a proposal to bring forward the election to 2020, such that every litigation around elections will happen before the swearing in date, so that an incumbent will not be bedeviled by legal issues as we witnessed in 2023. So be that as it may, the legislature owes this nation as a responsibility to see to it that these electoral bills are amended on time, and such that the INEC, which is saddled with the responsibility of fashioning out the electoral timetable for this nation, can go ahead. And you see the way there's a standstill. INEC at this moment is unable to take action. They are yet to come out with electoral timetable. And what does this leave us to? There is a possibility that if this act is not passed on time, it will go a long way to impart the credibility of next election, because it's this act that will help us see that we'll have a credible, free, fair, and credible election. And without this amendment, I can speak to you in every indices that it will impact the credibility of next election. If we take into account what happened, we saw a situation where a presidential candidate that challenged the outcome of the previous election told us that he is challenging the process. And what is the process? Part of the process is the inaccuracies that we have in the electoral bill that needs to be amended. And when you speak to it, we need to know what the law and where the law stands on the issue of electronic transmission of results. What is the position of the law on beavers? What is the position? These are issues that need clarification on time, and this in itself is equally affecting political parties. The political parties cannot be able to plan if they don't know what the electoral amendment is. I tell you, politicians play around the law a lot. They need to know the direction they will move, and this equally will affect the security agencies that need to plan ahead, train their personnel, draft out their electoral timetable, and map out plans for the election. So in all, the Senate owes us that responsibility to move fast, because it has, like I did mention, it has a far-reaching implication beyond what we're just discussing. And if we do not, do that on time, for the people to be assured that the next process will be credible, I tell you, we may be witnessing a lot of political apathy, come 2026 or 2026 or 2027 election, depending on when we face the election as well.
But it surprises me that right now we have not had that electoral bill into coming out, because if we are going to have our election in 2027, like it has been, like the proposal is, we should actually have had it earlier, so that the swearing in should be next year. Looking at the case of Mr. Peter Obi with the current government, looking at how everything played out, there was a lot. Of course, it happened at the time it should happen, but there was a lot of political, a lot of issues that came up that needed to be settled. There was this back and forth going here and there to settle this whole thing. So I'm asking myself, why have we not had this right now, and why is it not happening? Because when you look at the election, the reason why I will tell you the whole electoral bill too should be passed is looking at the budget of the election, and also the facilities needed for the election. The IREV, the beavers and other things. You know what happened in the election in 2023, how those things at some point failed. By now we should have been having some test run of these things. I don't know if you really would see that with me. By now we should be having some test run of these things, knowing people should be encouraged to come out to. We should even be having something like, I'm just trying to suggest something like mock election, where people can also participate to have their to see what it could be at the end of the day. So that's the summary of everything we're saying. Without the
legislature, coming out and passing the electoral bill or electoral act 2026 or 25, as the case may be, IMEC will not be able to set a timetable. I will not be able to do a mock run like you are saying. So that's why I tell you that this bill will determine the outcome of our next election. How free, how fair, and how credible the next election will be is dependent on this. And when you speak to the litigation process that we witness after our election cycles, it speaks a lot to why we need that amendment to happen. We need to factor that into being, and that speaks to a lot of litigation you see after the election, speaks to the process. And that's why you saw the candidate of the Labour Party say he was challenging the process, because there are a lot of lacuna in our electoral process that needs to be challenged, and these are that have what I call constitutional immunity, because until they are amended, you may not jettison them. And having said that, again, when you are done with the amendment, then it has a way for the planners of the next election to know the resources that will be apportioned, and it speaks to the legitimacy of whatever election that you will conduct going forward. Why people are raising allegation and protesting against the senators or the legislature as to not wanting this amendment to happen, because it is time bound, is that a lot of them, as they allege, stand to benefit from the old order. But going forward, we need to bequeath this nation a credible process that will entrust a credible leadership, because when the process is mad, it has a way to raise questions as to the legitimacy of an elected government. And you did cite the case we witnessed in 2023. And I tell you, 2023 election wasn't the only one. You've seen the late head of state a number of times going to court to challenge the process, the elections, whenever he comes with his millions of votes, and for either technicality or one thing or the other, he is denied. So this been there, and these are part of the issues that needs to be looked into the electoral amendments.
All right, thank you very much for that. And now this is where we call it today on our newspaper review. Do not forget that you can grab physical copies from any of your favorite vendor or catch the paper online for more broader information. And up next is our sports update from the man himself, Good Hope.
All right, thank you very much for having me here this morning to give you and bring you what's happening in the world of sports. Yesterday was Champions League, and a lot of matches came. Of course, the prediction, how the match should be, tells you the match, and we will not always rest or sit back with predictions. We will always also look at what really will be happening. First of all, is that in the AFCON, there are the sanctions from the CAF disciplinary committee. It has been said that some of the individuals who played a part in the AFCON final disputes that had to happen between Morocco and Senegal in the match they played, that some of those individuals, they have been sanctioned and they have been fined, just like a Senegal head coach. He was fined, and also talking about that, Akraf Hakimi was also fined. Then on that same line, to say this is not going to happen, and because of this, it has to be brought to the books, which we have seen, and it's happening already. Now, moving over to Champions League and what happened in the world of Champions League yesterday, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Liverpool had their share of the game, including Manchester City, who delivered a wonderful sport. You can see that Arsenal won 3-2 yesterday, and we are talking about Champions League. Barcelona won 4-1 yesterday, while Rafinha, Marcus Rashford, the Lamine Yamal had to score their goals respectively, while Lewandowski had to register a penalty with his own goal with penalty. We're still talking about that. Benfica had to win Real Madrid yesterday, and in this Benfica match, their goalkeeper had to make the goal. The goalkeeper scored yesterday. That's just what it is in this game of Benfica, and it was a 9-minute goal. He had to knock the ball into the goal post. And we're talking about Bruges. Bruges scored 3 goals to winning Marseille in their home Frankfurt lost 2 goals to Tottenham, and Leverkusen won 3 goals. Liverpool won 6 goals. They won by 6 goals, of course. It was a good match. Mohamed Salah, since November last year, has not scored, but he scored in this game. And Manchester City scored yesterday. Erling Haaland too, and and the rest of the guys played a good game. While we're talking about this, then we are going to go down to Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea. These two guys were not so. I don't know what really happened, but Paris Saint-Germain tried their best. Then Chelsea, on the other hand, had to win their game yesterday against Napoli. Well, Napoli were tipping Napoli to win, but Chelsea won, and that is what we have been seeing in the world of the Champions League yesterday.
All right, thank you for that sports update, Mr. Goodhope. And moving over to the business update, starting with the Nigerian stock market. The Nigerian stock market, as at yesterday, January 28, 2026, the Nigerian stock market closed on a slightly bearish note, with the all-share index ASI dipping by 0.1% to settle at 165,531.55 points, down from Tuesday's close of 165,713.81 points. The market activity saw a notable decrease in volume compared to the previous session, reflecting a more cautious stance from investors today. Total market capitalization closed at approximately 105.75 trillion naira. And then when we look at the market summary, the market capitalization stood at 105.75 trillion. The total volume of shares rose to 278.65 million units. And then we can tell you that the market sentiment, though slightly bearish, where we saw 38 losers versus 32 gainers. And the top 5 gainers in this list was led by the real estate and financial service sectors, with several stocks hitting the maximum daily limit of 10%. This number one on the top 5 gainers are Union Homes. Union Homes closed its trading yesterday at 94 naira 85 kobo, making a plus 9.97% adjustment. We see Deep Capital Management Aviation traded as Skyvan, closing their books yesterday at 128 naira 60 kobo, making a positive 9.91% a positive adjustment. And we see the last on this list of top 5 gainers by Morrison Industries, which closes trading yesterday at naira 99 kobo, equally making a positive 9.90% adjustment. And then looking at the list of the top 5 losers, who we see across a mix of aviation, healthcare and hospitality sector. We see RT Briscoe closing trading yesterday at 6 naira 50 kobo, making a negative 9.97 adjustment. They are followed by May and Baker. May and Baker is a pharmaceutical company, stock which closed trading yesterday at 35 naira 25 kobo, equally on the negative minus 9.96 adjustment. We see Ikeja Hotel closing its books yesterday at 2 naira 25 kobo, making a negative 9.92 adjustment. We are seeing Living Trust Mortgage closing book yesterday at 4 naira 64 kobo, equaling the negative 9.90% adjustment. And then the list on that list is E-Transact, which closed trading yesterday at 17 naira 35 kobo, equally on the negative 9.16 adjustment. And then the performance as a yesterday, we see large cap stocks like Gregu Power and Boa Foods saw significant sell-off today, contributing to the overall index decline. And then we are seeing Zenith and Jitco manage marginal gains, providing some support to the banking index despite the broader market dip. And looking at the Naira performance as of yesterday, the Naira continued its positive streak, hitting a significant 2-year high against the US dollar in the official market. This rally is largely attributed to the increased liquidity and the continued impact of the central bank's electronic foreign exchange matching system. And then let's give you the breakdown. At the official market yesterday, the Naira opened at 1,400 naira 28 kobo as against the dollar, and even got as high as 1,466 kobo at the official market. And then at the black market, it opened at 1,470 and then closed at around 1,485. against the dollar at the parallel market. And as against the pounds, we saw the naira yesterday, depreciating and closing at 1,929 naira 99 kobo. And then as against the euro, we equally saw a depreciation in that it closed at 1,675 naira 53 kobo. These at the official market milestone, we saw that the naira for the first time hit 1,400 naira mark since May 2004. It has gained significant ground since December 2024 when it's trading around 1,661. And then we're looking at the foreign reserve buffer, which ensures confidence is being bolstered by Nigerian external reserves, which rose to a near high of 46.06 billion US dollars as of late January. At the parallel markets, while we're talking about the official rates, which strengthened, the black market saw slight pressure due to end of month demand for importers, but it remained relatively stable to the volatility of late 2025. And that is it for the business update this morning. But you are aware and notified that before you make any financial investment, please do consult a financial expert. Look at a financial expert due to the volatility of the market. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. And this is where we call it a day on Sunrise on Aneke TV. And it's always a pleasure having you here on our show every morning. Do not forget to follow us across our social media platforms, across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, all at Aneke TV. Or call our phone number 070-304-37110. It's always a pleasure having you here. I am Deborah Wakuba.
And thank you, Mr. Good Hope, the man of many parts. Thank you for that sports update, and thank you for always being here with us on Sunrise.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I'm Uche Osai. Thank you on behalf of all of us here on Sunrise and the crew at Aneke TV. We'll say thank you for watching, and keep watching till we come your way same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Culture is identity. Tradition is continuity. And heritage is memory. Together, they tell the story of a people. When we lose our culture, we lose ourselves. Celebrate your roots. Language, attire, food, and festivals. They are treasures worth preserving.
Ad replacements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories, call 070-3043-7110 right now. And Aneke TV, move with the world.
In functional democracies and competitive economies, meritocracy is not a slogan, it is a system. A system where competence determines opportunity, performance drives advancement, and leadership is earned, not inherited or imposed. In Nigeria, however, the persistent triumph of mediocrity over merit continues to shape recruitment processes, elective positions, and leadership outcomes across critical sectors of national life.
From public service employment to political office, from academia to corporate governance, troubling pattern has emerged. Access often trumps ability, loyalty outweighs competence, and short-term political calculations override long-term national interests. In the public sector, recruitment exercises are officially designed to be competitive, involving written examinations, interviews, and eligibility screening. Yet, multiple surveys and independent audits have consistently shown that informal influence, patronage networks, and bribery remain significant determinants of who gets hired. This reality has produced ministries, departments, and agencies burdened with underqualified personnel, struggling to deliver on complex policy mandates in a rapidly evolving global environment. The consequences are not abstract. They manifest in delayed project execution, weak policy implementation, inefficient service delivery, and ballooning recurrent expenditure with minimal value creation. When institutions are staffed without regard for skill or capacity, governance becomes reactive rather than strategic. The problem is not limited to recruitment alone. Nigeria's elective political system reflects the same crisis of merit. In many cases, candidates emerge not through rigorous debate, policy clarity, or intellectual depth, but through financial muscle, political godfathers, or ethnic calculations. Electoral outcomes frequently reward popularity, patronage, or vote buying over competence and vision. The result is a leadership deficit that cuts across local government councils, state assemblies, governorships, and even the national legislature, institutions constitutionally taxed with lawmaking, oversight, and representation, yet often lacking the technical depths required to interrogate budgets, scrutinize policies, or design forward-looking legislation. Other sectors tell a similar story. In education, the erosion of merit in academic appointment has weakened research quality and global competitiveness. In some tertiary institutions, promotions and leadership roles are influenced more by internal politics than scholarly output. In the corporate space, family ties and informal networks sometimes override professional management principles, limiting innovation and sustainability. Ironically, Nigeria continues to produce world-class professionals who excel in merit-driven systems abroad, from medicine and engineering to technology, finance, and academia. Their success outside the country reinforces a painful truth. The problem is not Nigerian capacity or Nigerian systems. Countries that have achieved rapid development offer contrasting examples. Singapore, Rwanda, and South Korea institutionalize meritocracy through transparent recruitment, performance-based promotion, and zero tolerance for patronage. Leadership selection in these systems prioritize competence, integrity, and accountability, even when politically inconvenient. Back home, the cost of failing to do the same is increasingly evident. Brain drain has accelerated as skilled Nigerians seek environments where effort is rewarded fairly. Public trust in institutions has declined, and citizens grow more cynical about processes they perceive as rigged or predetermined. Yet, experts argue that the tide can be turned. Strengthening meritocracy requires deliberate reform, not rhetoric. Transparent digital recruitment platforms, independently supervised examinations, enforceable sanctions for recruitment breaches, and clear performance metrics are critical starting points. In the political space, electoral reforms that reduce the influence of money, strengthen internal party democracy, and encourage issue-based campaigns are essential to improving leadership quality. Civil society, the media, and the electorate also carry responsibility to interrogate candidates, demand competence, and reject mediocrity at the ballot box. Ultimately, meritocracy is not elitism, it is fairness. It is the assurance that every Nigerian, regardless of background, has a genuine chance to rise based on ability and effort. Without it, institutions weaken, leadership falters, and national ambition remains unrealized. For Nigeria to compete globally, govern effectively, and harness its vast human capital, merit must no longer be optional. It must become the standard. In recruitment, in elections, and in every field where decisions shape the nation's future.
We will never say yes to concession. Oh if you want to kill us, we no go gree. We will never say yes to concession. Mama no dey.
Workers and labor unions at Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, staged a protest against the federal government's recent concession of the airport to Aero Alliance Limited. Members of the Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals and the National Union of Air Transport Employees argued that the concession process lacked adequate stakeholder consultation and transparency, raising concern about job security. The national president of the Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Comrade John Obe, said the unions were not opposed to airport concessions in principle, but insisted that the process must be transparent and inclusive.
We had the news that Enugu Airport have been concessioned, and in the Infrastructure Regulatory Commission, it's written that you cannot sell the airport or concession the airport without addressing the labor issues. And we as the leadership of the labor unions in aviation have to come and let the workers know that we have not finished our talk. So if we have not finished our talk, means that the concession comes short of what the law says. This is just the beginning of a congress. It's not even a protest. The next series of this protest will be shutting down the airports, because we are determined that our voices must be heard and government should respect what the act say, and the labor issues must be penciled down and signed off before they take over our airport.
Comrade Alale Adedayo, Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals, National President, warned that any arrangement not protecting staff interests is unlikely to succeed, noting that union leaders were not